just a few days away from the first spring training matchup of the Toronto Blue Jays, and Matt Chapman is still a free agent. Cody Bellinger is still a free agent. A numerous amount of notable MLB players are still unsigned and don't have a team this close to the season. Don't know if we've ever seen it, but the Jays are apparently still trying to re-sign Matt Chapman and keep him in town. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And excuse the audio. I'm sorry. I was on the run today. Just came back from work and didn't have my usual setup, but it will be back and okay to go for tomorrow. But yeah, Nick, this is some news coming out here of the Toronto Blue Jays camp that they're looking to re-sign Matt Chapman. We're not sure what the interest level is for both sides. Obviously, it makes sense for the Blue Jays to bring him back because there is an opening at third base and there is a vacancy there. But I'm more on the fence of not signing Matt Chapman and turning it over to maybe a stopgap option for this year, a mix of Justin Turner, IKF, Kevin Biggio, maybe some Aurelvis Martinez sprinkled in there as well, as opposed to just tying down the position for the next half decade. That's not something that I would be comfortable doing if I was the Blue Jays front office. Don't know what their stance is on that, but Nick, Matt Chapman offered us some good memories last year in the first month of the season. Then he got pretty frustrating to watch as the season rolled along, and he just wasn't able to deliver in clutch situations. He struck out way too many times for Blue Jay fans to appreciate. And I don't know. I don't know where you stand on this, but I'm more so on the let's not bring back Matt Chapman camp.
Yeah, it's a big question, and we've seen a crazy market collapse that we haven't seen. I can't remember the last time we've seen a market collapse like this for a lot of the players that have been getting signed. Before we get into it, a quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. About 70% of you aren't subscribed. We're on the road to 12K. Now, Peter, let's get into the first topic. You mentioned it. The Jays are, according to Jim Bowden, pushing hard for Matt Chapman. This came in one of his most recent articles. He's a pretty notable reporter. I believe he focuses more on New York, but he said the Blue Jays are still trying hard to re-sign third baseman Matt Chapman, and obviously they say in the meantime they're just kind of sticking with who they have with IKF and those things. But Peter, this is interesting, and this is the second time that a report has come out about the Jays trying to re-sign Matt Chapman in the past couple weeks, specifically by Jim Bowden here. The biggest thing for me, and the fit is kind of interesting. Obviously, Matt Chapman, if you sign him, he makes your team better this year. You would assume that he would be better consistently compared to IKF or whoever they have at the third baseman position, maybe Kevin Biggio. He still put up a 4 WAR last year, but a lot of fans out there, I'm kind of more on the fence about it, really don't like Matt Chapman because of how badly his offense fell off. Now, if you consider, obviously, his defense and things like that, past the first couple months of the season, Matt Chapman was really bad. He was just as bad as hitting as IKF, and they have similar defense. So you can kind of compare those two and even make a case, not necessarily that IKF is the better player. I don't think anyone's doing that, but that resources would be better allocated elsewhere or even internally for Aurelvis Martinez. But Peter, Matt Chapman, the Jays are going to try to get him back, and the reason I think this is coming out is because of the collapse in the market, specifically regarding Scott Boras. We saw a report by Ken Rosenthal basically saying Scott Boras is sitting with these clients, he wants them to get paid, and he's waiting for a team like the Giants, Cubs, or Blue Jays, who are mentioned here, to kind of have the need and the desire to really go last minute and kind of go out of their budget to get a player instead of doing what the Blue Jays are doing, which is waiting for the budget to come down on these guys, who I think will end up happening. I think the only reason the Jays would sign him is if it's for a cheap number.
Yeah, I think so too. And Scott Boras has tried to bully his way around Major League Baseball for years now. He's tried to get his clients paid, and he's tried to get them as many years as possible. And he's succeeded at that. But let's look at the two Boras clients, the two big Boras clients that are still available right now, Matt Chapman and Cody Bellinger. And teams are calling their bluff right now. You want $200 million for Matt Chapman? You must be out of your mind. That's what teams are telling Scott Boras right now, and they're echoing that same sentiment with Cody Bellinger as well. Cody Bellinger had 2 horrible seasons where he was worse than a backup player, and I know he was good last year, but he had a lot of like things that went his way. And don't get me wrong, I think Cody Bellinger is going to be good for a few more years here. I think he's got some baseball left in him. I don't think last year was an anomaly. I think he's going to be solid, but I do expect some regression. So to give a player who has had injury history, who has not shown the same power that he had 3 years ago, $200 million plus, it doesn't make sense to teams. Same thing with Matt Chapman. He's had hip surgery. He's not the same hitter that he was. And you say that the Blue Jays would be a better team if they brought back Matt Chapman next year. I disagree, Nick. Let me ask you this question. If the Blue Jays, with a combination of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Kevin Biggio, and let's say Justin Turner playing third base every now and then, is that not better than Matt Chapman, offensively speaking? Answer the question. Is that not better?
It would depend. I think for me, I mean, you look at his stats last year. Obviously, he's a great defender. I don't know. And the question and the fact that it's I don't know kind of goes to your point there, simply because you're going to be paying him $150 million if it's going to be that big of a difference. Looking at his OPS, he's been pretty bad for the Blue Jays, specifically after the first couple months. Obviously, his WAR is still up there. His peripherals are great. He strikes out a ton, which is an issue. But, I mean, if we see some internal development between Biggio and, I mean, obviously IKF's not going to develop much more, I could see a case where they put up similar combined WAR to Matt Chapman, which, yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I don't think the Jays necessarily should go out and sign Matt Chapman. I just think that maybe in their mind they want I guess what the thing would be with Matt Chapman is that his floor would be higher than the guys that you just mentioned. You know you're going to get just because of his glove and his semi-power ability. I mean, he only had 17 home runs last year. Last year was really a bad season for him. Maybe I'm turning myself into in the other way here, but I understand the point you're making, and I'm kind of starting to agree with you as I look at the stats here.
Again, Nick, I disagree. I disagree again that he has a higher floor than those guys. Kevin Biggio, we saw him towards the end of last season. He was one of the more productive bats in that Blue Jay lineup. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa offers similar defense. So maybe as if we're looking at a one-for-one perspective, like Kevin Biggio against Matt Chapman, yeah, maybe Matt Chapman has a higher floor. But look at the three guys that are going to play that position this year, or that we expect to play that position. Those guys can combine to give you what Matt Chapman gave, and they don't have a 5-year $150 million price tag attached to their names either. So if I'm the Blue Jays front office, I ride it out this 1 year. I don't give Matt Chapman the money that he's looking for, because it's just no longer a fit. You have prospects at that position. You have enough resources this year to get through the year and not have to pay Matt Chapman that exorbitant amount of money. And what I do if I'm the Blue Jays is I ride this year out. I see what I have in those three guys. And then the next offseason, I'm throwing a bag at Alex Bregman. That's a guy who has been consistent for a long, long time in the major leagues. He's a World Series winner. He is proven. He gets on base. And his defense, yeah, it's declining. It's not great, but it's third base. You don't need a platinum glover at that position. If he was a shortstop, then maybe I would argue his defense is invaluable and you got to bring him back, but he's not a shortstop. He's a third baseman. His defense is not as crucial as people are making it out to be. It won't be that much of a game changer to this team. I'm throwing a bag at Alex Bregman, and I'm riding the year out with those three guys that we've been talking about all video long.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very fair point. I'm very curious to see what people in the comments think. I don't think they should bring back Matt Chapman anyway, and there's definitely arguments to be made either way. He's been declining a lot, and not only has he been declining a lot with the Jays lately, but again, you mentioned the hip surgery, all these different things. If you look at him from May onwards last year, he was just as bad, or I guess, yeah, just as bad as IKF was hitting-wise for a lot of fans out there that weren't a fan of the IKF signing. So let us know what your thoughts are on that. It's going to be very, very interesting to see, and I might be leaning towards I don't think they should bring back Matt Chapman either way. I think there's too many internal options, specifically the prospects. I mean, Aurelvis Martinez they're playing him at second base now. You have Addison Barger who can play third, so there's going to be a lot. Any quick final thoughts on that before we move on to a quick topic before we wrap up?
Yeah, very quickly here. I just think, look, the way that the market has been playing out and teams are not giving in to Scott Boras like they have in the past 10 years here, if Matt Chapman agrees on a 1-year deal, then I'd bring him back. A 2-year deal, I'd maybe consider it. But anything longer than 2 years handcuffs the Blue Jays, considering the prospects that they have in the wings. So if we're a week away from the season and Matt Chapman still hasn't signed and he just wants to play baseball and show that he can be a valuable player going forward, then yeah, I'd take him on a 1-year deal. But anything apart from that, no thank you. And the way that the market is going, I wouldn't be shocked if that ended up playing itself out.
Yeah, I think some team will give him some money just because he still put up a 4 WAR last year.
Yeah.
But the declining thing is there, and I think that's the biggest thing with him is that a lot of teams, and you kind of see it with Cody Bellinger as well, is like there's a lot of risk in signing a guy like Matt Chapman to 4 years. Yes, he has the defense there, but even that was declining a little bit in a lot of routine plays. But we'll leave that where it is. That's a big conversation to have, and it's going to be a wild thing to discuss going forward. But Turner, quickly, he's had some great things. I just want to throw this in here because I found it very interesting. Peter, he kind of mentioned the Bo Bichette thing that kind of happened. He said that today that he had something, this was yesterday, Blue Jays tell him during the 2023 season that he should come to Toronto, and he heard Bo Bichette's interview. So it seemed like he was getting recruited by Blue Jays players in the middle of the season last year, and he also went on to say that he's super excited to come to Toronto, and getting an opportunity to play for an entire country is something that he's excited to do. Any quick thoughts on this? It's pretty funny. Bo Bichette went out there, and we were discussing it. We mentioned the other players, JD Martinez, which is another one he mentioned. Maybe he'll be coming to Toronto next, but I'm happy with the Turner signing. We've kind of talked about it a lot, but he seems like a great character to be in the clubhouse, and the team's good vibes.
Absolutely, and everything that we've heard from him ever since coming to camp, it's just been positive. And we heard all the things about him in the Red Sox camp last year, how after a month of being there, after a month of meeting his new teammates, he was their leader going forward, and they followed Justin Turner as he went. So obviously the success wasn't really there for the Boston Red Sox, but they were void of a lot of talent. And this Blue Jays team is not void of talent, but they need someone to steer the ship. John Schneider is an inexperienced manager. He showed that at times last year and in the year before. So getting a veteran like this, a 39-year-old who has been there, done that, won a World Series, been an all-star, been a very valuable player in this league for a long time, and still put up some really good numbers last year at the age of 38. He's going to be an extension of the coaching staff. He's going to help out this lineup so much more than people are giving him credit for, and I can't wait to see him play in Blue Jays blue. I really think he's going to have a huge impact, and his numbers may not be as good as Brandon Belt's numbers were last year, but I think his impact on and off the field is going to just outweigh that lack of production in a sense, and he's going to be so crucial for this Blue Jays team.
Yeah, and I think his power numbers will be something that Brandon Belt wasn't able to achieve last season. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all this. And the big debate here is if Chapman is worth it for the Blue Jays. I think I agree with you. 1 or 2 year deal, sure. If not, let him go. But if you want to check out our video from yesterday, click on your screen now. See you tomorrow.